We are so excited to announce that we are adding DevOps course and Red Hat certification at no charge, which will make students more competitive. Over 80% of our students have no prior IT background, yet vast majority of alumni land jobs in 3 to 6 months after they start applying. Our ultimate goal is to reach 100% student employment. So we work with every student until he or she gets a job. Upon successful completion of the course, we will provide resume building, interview preparation, and job placement assistance. With the Linux course, you get more than 300 hours of in-depth training, and you get to learn from experienced instructors. By the end of the program, our students can be Red Hat certified if they choose. Our alumni work in companies, both government and private companies in the USA, Canada, and even Europe. Want to learn more about the program? You can contact us at info@dynamicdmv.com, or you can call us at 240-604-9505, or you can call us at 240-423-7865. And you can also visit us at www.dynamictechdmv.com. If you are interested in online classes, please register on our website. That's once again www.dynamictechdmv.com.
Good evening, dear Ambazonians, fellow Southern Cameroonians. Let me start by paying homage to another great Ambazonian statesman, Senior Comrade Francis Shea, Chairman of the Ethics Committee of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, who moved on to glory just 4 days ago. He led one of the most important oversight bodies of this interim government, the Ethics Committee, with class and integrity. On behalf of the nation, I extend my heartfelt condolences to the Shea family during this time of despair and assure them of the total support of the interim government and the people of Ambazonia to ensure that our senior comrade gets the honor he deserves when we get to Buea. Let's observe a moment of silence for our heroes and for all of our people slaughtered by Paul Biya's barbaric terrorist soldiers. "2019 has been the most hectic year since this war was declared on the Ambazonian people by dictator Paul Biya on the 30th of November 2017. The genocide that was openly declared on our people by Paul Biya 3 years ago is worsening. More than 16,000 of our compatriots have lost their lives. That's about 2 times more from last year. About 1.5 million refugees, registered and unregistered, have crossed our borders to French Cameroon and other neighboring countries. That is more than the population of the whole of neighboring Equatorial Guinea displaced. There are about more than 60,000 registered refugees in Nigeria alone. This represents only half of our refugee population currently languishing in Nigeria and Ghana. At this time that you are watching this end of year's address, there are thousands of children crying in the arms of their desperate mothers in the middle of a mosquito-stricken equatorial forest with no food, no shelter, no medicine to survive. There are thousands of desperate parents wondering what to do for their children, especially, and how to survive with no food, no shelter, no medicine available. There are thousands of Ambazonian senior citizens, pregnant mothers without essential medication, hoping only that by some miracle they get up tomorrow, still alive, ready to withstand another helpless day. What can I say about the hundreds, if not thousands, of Ambazonians with snake bites, bullet wounds, and curable diseases who are hiding and dying in bushes, in transit, in high seas, fleeing from the merciless scorched-earth policy that the 87-year-old heartless dictator of Yaoundé, Mr. Paul Biya, has engaged in, razing down thousands of our living homes. About 400 of our villages so far have been burned, including properties. About 106 of our sick ones, including babies and the old and the weak, have been brutally roasted in their homes during these burning sprees. This is how barbaric it gets. This is a shameless breach of Geneva Convention on the law of war by a cowardly military whose motivation is nothing more than protecting a puppet octogenarian dictator and his French master. This is the reality of the ongoing genocide, a barbaric French Cameroon project with the sole aim of exterminating the people of southern Cameroons. Let me address the young French Cameroon criminal soldiers sent to Ambazonia to kill innocent civilians and burn our houses. Young men and women, patriotism is not a license to engage in a senseless war that may cut short your life or bring misery to your family just because you were trained to take orders. Orders that go against the dictates of your conscience are not worth executing. Where is your conscience when you gun down a woman old enough to be your grandmother? Where is your conscience when you burn down a family house you well know has taken the sacrifice of a lifetime to construct? How do you feel when you kill a young man almost your age or a baby young enough to be your child, whose only crime is that he or she is along your path of atrocity? How will you not end up in a coffin as your colleagues when you know you rarely kill our brave restoration forces during your missions? Young soldiers of La République du Cameroon, the choice is yours, either to follow the folly of a foolhardy 87-year-old dying dictator who has nothing to lose by wasting your lives, or you choose the path of sanity, which is to defect now from that Paul Biya genocidal military of La République du Cameroon, as many of your colleagues are wisely doing. The honor of choosing the latter is yours to decide, but note that the brave warriors of Ambazonia have sworn to send you back to your maker if you choose to continue to fight us in our land. You are fighting for a miserable paycheck, but we are fighting for our inheritance. We will fight this war for generations until Ambazonia is free, if need be. Therefore, any recruit of La République du Cameroon who is counting himself or herself lucky for not being sent yet to Ambazonia should know that his or her turn will come, and you will surely come and meet your demise in our God-given land. I wonder what any true son or daughter of Ambazonia is still doing in your God-forsaken genocidal military of La République du Cameroon, the so-called Bulu Intervention Rapide or Gendarmerie. In our Amba tradition, to take the blood of your king by enemy orders is an irredeemable sacrilege. Let me once more pay special homage to our brave warriors, our true heroes and heroines, the Ambazonian Restoration Forces, dead and alive, who have demonstrated the highest level of patriotism by continuing to defend homeland amidst challenging conditions. Challenging conditions posed by the enemy without and the enemies within. For our fallen heroes and heroines, we doff our hearts to you and place our hands on our hearts as a sign of respect for your invaluable sacrifice to us Ambazonians in your noble quest to protect our vulnerable people while fighting to liberate homeland. On behalf of the people of Ambazonia, I am awarding you all, dead and alive, the Ambazonia Presidential Medal of Valor, the highest to be awarded any soldier in our nation. We pay allegiance to you, the heroes who bore the land with your blood. In my November 22nd speech to you, I declared the 30th of November as Amba Warriors Day to commemorate the heroism of our warriors during this genocidal liberation war, and I asked you to emulate their patriotism, support our heroes and their families. To refuse to support Ground Zero because of confusion on social media is like drowning your boat in the sea with everybody inside just because your neighbor is talking trash about you. We must be willing to take some bruises, even if unfairly, and remain focused and undistracted to ensure that Ambazonia is free in our generation. Fellow compatriots, following the charade of the French-Cameroon monologue that took place in Yaoundé 2 months ago, the much heralded special status they are parading is only a poor repackaging of their failed assimilation project. They are trying to force this lie on the international community by delaying the Swiss talks and organizing some sham elections in February. However, as you know, we have banned all elections and electioneering in the entire territory of Ambazonia. We recently signed orders shutting down all electoral offices, banning political parties, shutting all polling centers, proscribing campaigns, and outlawing the use and display of election materials of any kind. To this regard, we have charged our valiant restoration forces to arrest all culprits for thorough investigations and immediate prosecution under the laws of Ambazonia. They are authorized to arrest all lawbreakers before, during, and after this electoral season. Fines for those found guilty of collusion with La République du Cameroun to undermine our liberation quest will range from 2 to 15 million francs CFA or life imprisonment. Trials must be carried out by the County War Council under the oversight of our Ambazonia Judicial Commission. We are at war. Our territory is not a Franco-Betty laboratory for the retrial of another failed colonial assimilation formula. Fellow Ambazonians, dear Southern Cameroonians, the challenge of this past year were glaring from the beginning of the year. Your interim government, the People's Interim Government, laid down a robust plan coming into 2019 built around the implementation of the resolutions of the Constituent Assembly of the ASSC Berlin. The government I appointed on May 7, 2019 went straight to work. Your LGAs and counties are now almost fully constituted, and we have recorded an increase in active participation of Ambazonians in their various local government and counties, with elected administrators and representatives from most of the 61 LGAs and all the 13 counties, under the oversight of the Department of Home Affairs of the interim government. We worked relentlessly to execute our pentad strategy towards the prosecution of this revolution, namely grassroots mobilization, institutional efficiency, solidifying self-defense, strategic collaboration, and last but not the least, aggressive international diplomacy. Fellow Ambazonians, dear comrades, I can confidently tell you that we are moving closer to Buea now, despite the bumps. The signs are there for all to judge for themselves. As concerns solidifying self-defense, the National Self-Defense Council, or coordination, it's a team now made up of the National Self-Defense Council, the Department of Self-Defense and Security, and the Presidency. It has been put in place. Its role is to synchronize self-defense operations by coordinating resources, strategies, communication, and execution. Moreover, the Department of Self-Defense and Security has put together a think tank made up of self-defense experts with battlefield experience to provide necessary advice on strategy and intelligence matters. The work of all these brilliant compatriots on self-defense is evident in the actions that our restoration forces are carrying out on ground zero. The enemy can no more have a free ride into our territory. The successful economic sabotage, the resignation and refusal of some appointed colonial administrators to reside in our territory, and the installation of some colonial administrators outside their command headquarters. These are proofs of the overall efficacy and progress of our self-defense strategies. Thank you once more, our brave restoration forces. The Federal Marshall Project is a top priority now and will consist of putting in place an elite rapid response force to cover our entire territory, whose objective will be to significantly assist strategic counties, maintain discipline among our forces, and purge out infiltrators and criminal gangs that sometimes pose as restoration forces just to intimidate our population and extort money from them through kidnappings. Fellow compatriots, dear Ambazonians, our gains in diplomacy in 2019 have been remarkable, thanks to dedicated, hardworking compatriots who leave no stone unturned. They leave no stone unturned in articulating our story of genocide wherever they can. We are gaining the confidence of the international stakeholders towards our cause. For the first time, after the 1961 fraud that ended up in our annexation by La République du Cameroon, the Security Council members of the United Nations picked up our case, deliberating on the humanitarian situation in our territory through the area formula. That meeting took place on the 13th of May 2019, initiated by the United States, UK, Germany, and the Dominican Republic. More light was shed on the atrocities being perpetrated by the Bias regime on our people. This was a reasonable step forward. The general call for a fact-finding mission today is one of the outcomes of that area formula meeting. Subsequently, a U.S. House Resolution 358 was passed in the House of Representatives on July 23, 2019, condemning the atrocities by the government of La République du Cameroun on the southern Cameroonian people and asking them to comply with international human rights standards. The resolution recommended, among other things, dialogue between the two warring parties without preconditions. Then it was followed by U.S. Senate Resolution 292, passed in the United States Senate on the 30th of July 2019, still on the atrocities on our people, respect for international human rights by the Yaoundé regime, and a recommendation for dialogue without preconditions. Let me use this opportunity to once more thank Congresswoman Karen Bass and Senator Benjamin Cardin and their respective teams for sponsoring the above bills. Apart from the UN and US, the following bodies, UK House of Lords and the House of Commons, the European Union Parliament, the Canadian Parliament, the German Bundestag, the Scandinavian countries, some Central and South American countries, some African countries, as well as major international organizations like the AU, Commonwealth, etc., are deliberating on our demand for self-determination. They are proposing solutions pegged on an internationally facilitated mediation without preconditions amidst the deteriorating humanitarian situation as a result of dictator Paul Biya's genocide on our people. We have relentlessly led diplomatic offenses in many countries we visited in 2019, from Germany to United Kingdom to Sweden to Finland to Norway to Brazil. We had the opportunity to articulate our cause to international stakeholders, and we are following up rigorously on the many diplomatic bridges we have built this far. The recognition and support of the Barueri municipality of Brazil and the great people of Brazil as a whole to our quest for self-determination is another major remarkable milestone in the path of our restoration quest. Let me use this opportunity on behalf of the Amazonian people to thank our new Amazonian diplomatic mission in Brazil for the hard work during my visit there recently. We are confident that tangible fruits of diplomacy like the ones in Brazil will be harvested by our team in 2020. My dear compatriots, you can see for yourselves that the task you mandated us to undertake in Berlin as your interim government has been more than 70% executed fervently. Our aggressive diplomacy has been done mostly quietly without making our gains public beforehand, because we understand in a liberation war like ours, where antagonistic internal spoilers take every positive stride as competition, we as your people's government must keep a level head and stay focused on the end goal, which is our complete liberation. We will not go down the gutters with those who have chosen to fight the interim government instead of La République, or insult their way up the leadership ladder. We will rather continue to exercise reason, restraint, and focus in 2020. We can assure you we will not waste our precious time needed to do the work at hand, responding to social media anti-revolutionaries who spend the productive hours of their days comfortably behind their keyboards, churning out write-ups, audios, and videos aimed at pulling down the interim government instead of La République du Cameroon. These hate mongers are helping the French Cameroon agenda, knowingly or unknowingly, by helping to delay or deny us our chances of victory. We want to focus on laboring tirelessly for the freedoms we deserve now. Take, for example, the Swiss-led process, which is the only internationally endorsed platform ever put in place in our 58 years of annexation for a possible negotiated settlement between La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia, instead of compatriots to put all hands on deck and fall behind this initiative, masterminded by the interim government. and piloted by all nationalist groups under Team Ambazonia, the act. Some of our compatriots have taken a second full-time job to tear down the initiatives through malicious propaganda when they have no viable alternative. I use this opportunity to congratulate our compatriots in Morisk, APLM, SCAPO, SCAM, ROA, SCNC, and APEC, AIPC for demonstrating sound and selfless judgment by endorsing the Swiss process together with the interim government, thereby giving French Cameroon no wiggle room for delays or escape to meet us at the table. As a result, French Cameroon can no longer say, as before, we don't know who to talk to. This is why the international pressure is now mounting on French Cameroon to get to the table, or else. Team Ambazonia, on behalf of the people of Ambazonia, I want to say thank you. Let me use this opportunity to reiterate to Ambazonians that despite the nonsensical lies out there that Switzerland or HD is withdrawing as the official mediator of the international process, the Swiss are totally committed as ever to mediate this conflict. Today, the United Nations Security Council resolution of the 5th of December 2019 puts pressure on La République du Cameroun to participate in the Swiss-led negotiation with the Center of Humanitarian Dialogue, HD, as their technical partners. Our mediator is still the government of Switzerland, and HD, her technical partner, no leave, no transfer. The question I would like to ask Ambazonians is, what is the reason for the Swissophobia or the resistance of this international process? How can the fear of falling into an imaginary French trap paralyze intelligent Ambazonians this much? Who told anybody that Ambazonians' voluntary participation in a UN-backed process is a chain around our neck or is tantamount to any kind of surrender? If meeting La République du Cameroun through an acceptable third-party mediator at a table endorsed by powerful international stakeholders is not good enough, then what do we want? Is this not what we have been asking for 58 years? Yes, we know that the Franco-Betty mafia is desperate to create and prop up a moderate faction of so-called restorationists amongst us to negotiate with. They have not found any yet, I hope. They are, however, desirous to kill the Swiss process because, in their own words, it is led by radicals. I don't know what that means, actually, but why on earth are some Ambazonians helping these French Cameroon masterminds with arguments to stay away from the Swiss process on the pretext that Ambazonians don't want the Swiss process? How does that position help our cause at this time? On behalf of your interim government, let me boldly tell you this. We are damn ready to go even to hell with our eyes open to negotiate our separation from French Cameroon. This is not 1961 Fumban. This is 2020 in Switzerland. We will not waste our time to seek agreement with people who pursue interest more than reason. The time for group politics is over. He who has an apology to render to his brother should do so quietly. He who did a wrong should right the wrong before going to bed. He who stumbled should rise. He who hated his brother or sister because of lies he was told should ask God for pardon and seek genuine reconciliation in 2020. We will not babysit or reward anti-revolutionary conduct by wasting precious revolutionary time and resources in trying to educate the educated. Our focus is to cross this finish line with as many as are willing. God help us. On the humanitarian front, under the guidance of the Department of Health and Social Services, we have been able to assist in the provision of basic like food, drinkable water, hospital bills payment for some of our internally displaced persons, refugees, prisoners, and the wounded. Some housing was provided to some of our refugees in Nigeria. Let me use this opportunity to once more thank the UNHCR and all our accredited partner NGOs on Ground Zero and Ground One for their services. With regards to health, there has been the dissemination of survival health tips when there are signs of possible disease outbreak in our displaced communities. With the constant daily increase in IDPs and refugees, our resources are always limited. Therefore, the HSS has launched a non-governmental organization to mobilize fundraisers and facilitate the good work of that department. As a continuation of the institutional structuring as stipulated in ASSC Berlin 2019, the Department of Health and Social Services has implemented the Amber Peace Plan directives of linking up with elected LGAs and county health and social service representatives to better coordinate our operations at the grassroots level. Despite the many challenges of limited funds and voluntary personnel, we are determined to engage medical practitioners on the ground by partnering with third-party operatives during this period of war and supplying them with essential medications so that our people can have some medical assistance within their proximity. Therefore, compatriots, when we are called to contribute towards our health and humanitarian projects, let us not hesitate, please. Fellow Ambazonians, dear Southern Cameroonians, education is one of the reasons that this struggle for our liberation was reignited in 2016. We take pride in our educational system, which was meant to suit the educational aspirations of our children, preparing them for the competitive world of today and tomorrow. But the colonial regime took pride in destroying a better system of education that our fathers put in place by dictating their inferior educational curriculum to our children and sending them teachers who do not master our language of instruction, the English language, to teach our children using French as the language of instruction as the final straw to complete their assimilation project. Our teachers and lawyers and all compatriots who have stood for the liberation of homeland were vindicated when Dictator Biya openly admitted on the international stage just last month that their plan from 1961 was to completely assimilate us, the Southern Cameroonians. I feel the pain like any parent will, not seeing our children go to school for almost 3 years now. But wisdom dictates that we cannot allow our children to attend schools in the middle of insecurity caused by this senseless war. Yes, it is also our responsibility not to leave a generation of our young compatriots without education in a situation where this liberation war drags on for long. We are therefore in consultation with UNICEF on how our newly designed Ambazonian academic curriculum from pre-kindergarten to university level can be put in place in selected localities and or through distance learning. For such a project to be feasible, the need for the UN to create a buffer zone in Ambazonia may be necessary. Another plausible institutional restructuring, as recommended in ASSC Berlin, is the Department of Women's Services, whose role in connecting, motivating, educating, and encouraging our women to be more committed to our liberation quest has been exemplary. We also seek ways of reaching out to our women on ground zero with special needs. Mobilizing the grassroots via local government by local government outreach and fundraising are just two of the engagements these honorable Amber ladies of our women's services are undertaking. My call to all Amber ladies out there is to reach out to our women department and get involved in one way or the other in our quest for freedom, because you, more than the men, bear the bulk of the pain for all the thousands of your children that are being massacred by our enemy. My dear compatriots, fellow Ambazonians, without any doubt, you will agree with me that we have made remarkable strides this year as concerns our restoration quest, and this could not be possible without your support. The first ever national financial audit of the interim government was conducted following my order, and the report was made. It was made public for all to see. If you did not see a copy, ask your local government administrator. This audit vindicated us from the plethora of unwarranted allegations that were aimed at discrediting the work we are doing sacrificially for the Ambazonian people. The audit results equally pushed us to institute reforms that have made our IG today more transparent and accountable than ever. Our treasury is now a community treasury of 20 persons, no longer a one-man show as before. The second audit for 2019 has already been carried out, and the report will be shared with all stakeholders concerned. The setting up of a national treasury, a national audit committee made up of LGA representatives, a national procurement committee, and the creation of the Office of Comptroller General are all confidence building measures that we have taken to ensure greater transparency and accountability in our interim government. As at now, the 2020 budget proposal for the interim government has been completed. It is now left for the newly constituted Restoration Council to promulgate it into law this January as our 2020 finance law. A team of Ambazonian experts brought together by the Department of Economy, Investment and Natural Resources. This team has successfully crafted the economic vision of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, putting in place an economic blueprint of Ambazonia that will become the driving force for our economic diplomacy and corporate support for our cause. My fellow Ambazonians, dear Southern Cameroonians, the interim government under my watch will continue to prosecute this revolution as mandated by you, the people. We will continue to do what is right despite the activities of detractors and makeshift spoilers. How can we lose focus when we have achieved this much? Since we began this journey of our liberation quest 58 years ago, mistakes have been made by all leaders and stakeholders. We made ours and quickly learned our lessons as we moved on and readjusted where necessary. Some took positions out of ego, greed, or ignorance and fell off the track along the way. The 3 years down the line in our era, it is clear that any stance by a stakeholder in this liberation struggle today is a conscious choice. It will be a complete misplacement of priority to leave the urgent need of our people who are dying, massacred daily by Paul Biya's genocidal military, to seek new converts or massage oversized egos. I think we have done that enough. Let me speak for myself. Nobody should fight for a leader or a group of people. Let's fight for Mother Ambazonia. The stakes are too high. Let's put aside all contestations and rivalry. Let us consolidate our collective gains this far in our liberation quest, both in self-defense and diplomacy, and accelerate our efforts in 2020. The time for talking is over. The time for action is now. Our generation will be judged by the outcome of this war, not by which Ambazonian mounted the greatest opposition to the IG, not by who shot the fatal shot, but by the answer to this question: who won this battle at the end, La République du Cameroon or Ambazonia? We either all sail through this sea successfully or we all drown if Dr. Sako is going to score in the enemy's goal. And my so-called Ambazonian teammate decide to stop me because he doesn't like me or you don't want me to take the glory. Guess what? Our team will lose. It will lose the match. Period. It is only understandable if you sold the match and you are covertly playing for the other side and we did not know. That is only when it makes sense to rejoice when the IG loses, mock our every positive achievement, or muscle the principal ox that is plowing our field. 3 years down the road, it now dawned on me and many that the so-called infighting on social media at this stage is no longer because of some mere misunderstanding as some of us thought before. It is the veiled promotion of a political agenda by a few who secretly belong to the other side of the aisles, pressing for a different outcome by stopping this interim government. But we in this IG are not perturbed. We have heard ground zero clearly. The prime recommendation to us is to steer on the ship to Buea by all means necessary, as if the lives of 8 million Ambazonians depend on us. This is an arduous task we will pursue in 2020 with a tunnel vision. We will work with the willing to accomplish the aspiration of the critical mass of the Ambazonian people, which is freedom now, politics later. It is time we consolidate and accelerate our way to Buea. My dear Ambazonian people, the future is pregnant. The will and zeal are there. The determination is visible, and our collective destiny is close. Let us grasp it. Fellow compatriots, let's be true finishers. Let backing out not be a second thought. In the matter of this collective freedom, there is no option B. Ambazonia, British Southern Cameroons, must be free. That is the mission our generation must fulfill. This is the mission of our lifetime. But we have to do more to keep the quest for our freedom sustainable. This year, we put in place the Amber Peace Plan program with the aim of giving back the management and control of this liberation quest to you, the people, via your LGAs and counties. I can confidently say the mobilization has been encouraging. You have your representatives at the level of the interim government to make your voices heard. I encourage those compatriots who have still not joined their LGAs or counties to know that they are missing out to be part of this liberation history. For those who are already in, continue to support your LGAs so that our brave restoration forces will double their efforts to defend our homeland. Let us take pride in fighting for our freedom by owning this quest for complete independence. What better way can we do this if we have not yet signed up for our monthly compulsory independence dues, the CID? The minimum requested is only $10 per month, but you can choose a higher monthly contribution representing your level of sacrifice in this struggle or corresponding to your financial status. The secure website, once more, is the www.cidambercitizens.com, and it takes only 3 to 5 minutes to sign up. Let me use this opportunity to thank immensely our external partners and allies who are making enormous sacrifices to make sure we succeed in this liberation endeavor. History will count you as stepping forth when it mattered most to Ambazonians. Many have opined that Southern Cameroons will be another South Sudan if we separate from French Cameroon, as if there's any guaranteed hope for peace if we are forced to remain with crooked French Cameroon. That is far from the truth. Our case in Ambazonia is different. Ours is not a strongman-centered revolution. It is a people-owned and people-centered revolution. No leader can destroy our country. The people will rise to protect our victory against any renegade group of spoilers. Remember, we the people have not bought our freedom from abroad, but with our precious blood. And if that doesn't suffice, let me give the concerned international community another proposal to consider. It is the overwhelming opinion of our stakeholders that for peace to reign in this sub-region, we must regain our political independence now. And if need be, we are willing to work out a secure plan with a security plan with the UN and trusted guarantors to establish a reasonable transition period of, say, 10 years, where Ambazonians may not have their own military and no Ambazonian is allowed to bear arms. An international force will be constituted by allied nations, providing us with our needed post-war territorial defense and security. Ambazonia has got the means to pay for this arrangement. Our government will focus on reconstruction, rebuilding our institutions, accelerating resettlement, rehabilitation, and demilitarization, generate economic growth and prosperity for our people. This will guarantee peace in our country. Fellow Ambazonians, I want to say thank you to all those of you who contribute dutifully to your local government, your counties, etc. And those who, out of free will and generosity, just reach out financially to a suffering compatriot or family in need, both on ground zero and in the diaspora. Dear compatriots, dear Ambalanders, we cannot compare our meager sacrifice out here in the diaspora to what those on ground zero are going through. Without the enormous sacrifices of ghost towns, lockdowns, and your armed resistance, this struggle would have been a story by now. I want to assure those languishing in jail that the IJ will never abandon you. After the confiscation of all our bank accounts by the treasurers of our former president, we are happy to announce to you that we have dug out ourselves from that pit. I therefore directed the DHS, HSS, and local government and counties to conduct an updated census of all our comrades in jails, so we can together work to help alleviate their suffering significantly going forward. Let's continue to support our formidable restoration forces through accountable structures like the IG, or your local governments. We hail you, Ground Zero. Almost each day you bury one of ours gunned down by those La République du Cameroon terrorists just because he or she is Ambazonian. You take care of the wounded with the little means available. Some of you have lost your jobs and your children are not going to school. Business is difficult now. Yes, the sacrifice you bear is much. Yes, the price of freedom is heavy, but its price is irresistible. Let us together get that price, which is complete independence. Your sacrifice will not be in vain. We will rebuild Ambazonia. You will have better jobs. Our children will be taught in an environment of dignity and in a language that they understand. We will pave our roads, especially the ones from farms to the markets. We will build the economy to make sure that each Ambazonian household lives in dignity and peace. There will be justice, fairness, and equity for all. We will look after our children and the elderly. We will retrain some of our restoration forces to become the best police force in Africa. We will take care of their health after this brutal war and send some on deserving retirement with enough to live well the rest of their lives. We will compensate the families of fallen heroes and build memorials in their honor. All of us in exile, in the diaspora, have a home to freely return to, and even the remains of our heroes past who were buried in foreign abodes will be returned home for a befitting burial. Above all, we will live free in our own land of birth, caring for each other as we chart a guaranteed destiny from the resources bestowed in our land by the Almighty. This is the dream. This is why you and I cannot give up now. Even if we fall along the way, let us fall selflessly with faith and confidence, knowing that generations will strive better in a free Ambazonia because we showed up when it mattered most. This is the true Amba spirit, the spirit of sacrifice. Let us continue to be Amba strong. Independence now, politics later. Happy New Year to you all. May God bless you and bless the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Thank you.